Shivlei Lishmas Oshul Chaim ben Ephraim v'Tziona, Tzida ben Chaim Pesach, Yitzchak ben Sarah, Dvar bas Yitzchak, Avraham ben Mordechai David, Reuven ben Shmuel, Shana bas Achani, Yeshua ben Shmuel, Chana Golda bas Yisrael, Chaim ben Fegi, Yaakov ben Yitzchak, Mordechai Netzach ben Rivka, Rachel bas Yosef, Eliezer ben Yaakov, Chaim ben Gedalia, Zalman Leib ben Moshe, Chaim Eliyahu ben Yosef Moshe, Amichai ben Yaakov, and Gedalia ben Tzvi Reuven, Leila Nishmatam. Today we're going to speak about, in honor of Tanis Esther, Esther's moral dilemma, salvation through sin. Mishenechtes Adar Marvin b'Simcha. Because of Purim, right? What about Mishenechtes Nisan Marvin b'Simcha? What about Nisan, Pesach? What about Tishrei, Sukkot, V'samachta b'Chagecha? Ma nishtana Adar, Purim, Marvin b'Simcha? V'samachta b'Chagecha applies to Sukkot. How come when Tishrei comes in, you don't Marvin b'Simcha? On Nisan, V'samachta b'Chagecha, Pesach, what about chopped liver? What's so unique about Purim and Adar that you're Marvin b'Simcha? What makes that difference? The answer is that Pesach and Sukkot, these are all supernatural miracles that happen just once. We no more have no more magic clouds of glory. There's no more splitting of the Red Sea. There's no more killing of the firstborn. Supernatural miracles, that chapter is closed. Adar Marvin b'Simcha.
Can it open?
Purim.
Can it open?
What?
Chapter?
Purim is unique and different, that those type of miracles of the Nes Nistar, that's always with us. The Nes Nigla, that's not going to have anymore. That's gone. That's from the past. But Purim, those type of miracles where God is always watching out, even though it doesn't seem obvious, that makes me very happy. Because Ein Od Milvado, and we're going to talk about that more, why Purim is different. And that's what perhaps the Talmud means that Purim be the only yontiv of Mashiach comes. What do you mean to be the only yontiv? We know Ani Mamin, that the Torah will never change. But this is the explanation Torah Temimah gives. Those type of open miracles of Pesach and Shavuos and Sukkot, that's gone. But Purim, the miracles where God operates behind the mask, that we call Hateva. Hateva is Gematria Elohim. Those type of miracles continue forever. The greatest miracle of all is Jewish survival despite Hitler and Haman and Abu Mamzer. We're still here. That's the greatest miracle at all. That God is always watching out for us even though there's no splitting of the Red Sea. There's no man from heaven. Right? But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is behind the mask, looking out for us, even when it does not seem obvious. So that's what it means. Purim is the only yontif that goes on and on. Where the Nes Nistar, the word Nistar, mystery, hidden, Megillat Esther, Lagalot at the Hester, that is an ongoing miracle. So Marvin b'Simcha, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even though He's not going to split the Red Sea for us anymore, or give us man from heaven anymore, but His Ashgacha, Ein Od Milvado, is constant, on and on. And that should make me very happy. That's the idea. The message of Purim, Vatamoin HaMalki Vashti Lavo. Malki refused, what's her name? Vashti, the queen, refused to what? To come. Why? Bidvar HaMelech. So Poshi learned Pshat, Vatamoin HaMalka Vashti Lavo Bidvar HaMelech. Vashti refused to come when the king commanded her to come. Right? But the deeper meaning is, why did Vashti refuse to come and upset the king and give him a bad hair day? Why? Bidvar HaMelech. It's all the word of the Melech. Who's the Melech? The Melech Malchei Amlochim. HaMelech, HaHei Yediyah. Vashti gave Achashverosh a bad hair day. Anybody that upsets you, anyone that does you harm, it's Bidvar HaMelech. Ein Od Milvado. Whatever happens to you, it's all Bidvar HaMelech. Don't blame your neighbor, don't blame your spouse. It's all Bidvar HaMelech. That should make me very happy. Whatever happens to me in life, I am writing my Megillah. And I have to connect the dots. Like Esther couldn't connect the dots. I mean, right away, we read the Megillah in 45 minutes, right, Shirley? But it took 9 years after Esther won the beauty contest until Haman was safely swinging from his tree. Yosef took 9 years. Only looking back did Esther able to connect the dots. So whatever happens to you in life, it's Bidvar HaMelech, the Melech Malchei Amlochim. He's the one that's calling the shot. And to know that makes me feel what? Or should make me feel happy. Now, isn't it strange that we name a cookie after Haman, a Hamantash? Would you say a Arafat Danish? How about an Abu Mamzer cupcake? Why would you name a cookie a Hamantash? Strange, right? So the Talmud tells us in Megillah 14 that Haman did more for the Tshuva movement, more than NCSY, Chabad, and all the Nevi'im. That's what the Gemara says. The Jews were assimilating in Babylon, Long Island, and Persia, and they weren't listening to the prophets. Comes along Haman with the final solution, and all the Jews become Haredi. So that's what Adar means. Adar is Rosh Tevot. Ein Dover Ra. Ein Dover Ra. Haman looked bad, but it was all orchestrated by Kodesh Baruch Hu to what? To get the Jews to what? To do tshuva. So in honor of that, we name a pastry after Haman. He became the poster boy for tshuva. Now Haman, through lots, went to kill the Jewish people. It came out on the month of Adar. He was very happy, says the Gemara, because he knew Moshe died in Adar. But the Talmud says he didn't know that Moshe Rabbeinu was also born in Adar. Why didn't he know? Why didn't he not check Google? Google would have told him that Moshe is also born in Adar. What do you mean he didn't know? So the same idea, I think. When Moshe died, he rejoiced. That's the end of supernatural miracles. Haman was very shrewd. With the death of Moshe, no more supernatural miracles. So perhaps the Jewish people are vulnerable. But he didn't know that Moshe was also born in Adar. Moshe was born in Adar, and how was he saved? He was put in a basket, floating down the Nile River, and just by chance, Bas Paroi had to go take a shower. Why didn't she take a shower before? Baby Moses was flowing down the river after. It looked like a chance. She just happened to see him, and she saved him. So the very king that decreed all Jewish baby boys should be killed, so Moshe Rabbeinu happens to be adopted by Bas Paroi, and he grew up as prince in Egypt. It looked all like quinky-dinky events. Prince of Egypt in the very house of the king that wants to kill him. Esther, queen of Persia, in the very palace of the king that decreed to kill her. So all these events look like what? Like Mikra. What looks like a Mikra just happened. She happened to bathe in the river when Moshe was floating down. Esther happened to win the beauty contest. But this is the same idea that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always what? Looking out for us, even though he's not going to split the Red Sea for us anymore, or give us Dan Quayle, a mun. Remember Dan Quayle? Oh, yeah. But the Nes Nistar, whatever happens to me in life, it's all God. I don't have to worry. The big boss got it under control. That is the message of what? Of Purim, to look behind the mask of Purim. Now, before you know it, you'll be asking Manishtana, right? Before we get to the Manishtana of Pesach, there's a Manishtana on Purim. Manishtana Megillat Esther from all the other Megillot. There are 5 Megillot, you know that. There's the Megillat Shir HaShirim, we read when? Pesach. How many times? Once. There's the Megillat Kohelet that we read when? Sukkot. How many times? Once. There's Megillat Ruth that we read when? How many times? Megillat Eicha we read once? Tisha B'Av. Ma Nishtana Megillat Esther. Remember the movie Once Is Not Enough. It was a movie like that. Why ain't it enough? Ma Nishtana Esther is the only Megillah that you read twice. Once at night and then in the morning. Madua v'lama. You ever wonder? If you read it once, it looks like a string of coincidences. Esther won the beauty contest. Was she the prettiest girl? A Bes Yaakov girl? Haman, Mordechai had to walk by just when Bixam and Seresh were plotting. He couldn't walk by 5 minutes earlier, 5 minutes later. All of these chance encounters look like a mikra. You got to read the Megillah, you got to sleep on it, and you got to what? Read it again. To see what looks like a mikra, mem kuf reish hey, but looks like a mikra, rearrange the letters, what do you get? Rakmei Hashem. So therefore, right? Right, Barry said mikra, it looks like a string of coincidences. Whatever, he met me and she met me and I had to meet this guy and I had this bad deal and this good deal, she turned me down, I was rejected. It all looks like a mikra. But when you read it again, after you sleep on it, you see that a mikra, rearrange the letters, Rakmei Hashem. Whatever happens to us in life, it's Rakmei Hashem. We are all writing our own Megillah, whether we know it or not, with all the twists and turns and disappointments and all the problems we have, we are writing our own Megillah, whether we know it or not. It's Rakmei Hashem. Powerful lesson. Now today's Tan is Esther. Why are we fasting? Did Esther fast today? No. When did she fast? Pesach. Fast on Pesach. So why are you fasting today, the 13th of Adar? Esther didn't fast today. Pesach. So the answer is, today was the day that the Jewish people went out to defend their lives, right? The Megillah said, today, the 13th of Adar, was the day when the Jewish people took up arms to defend themselves against the terrorist. In biblical times, when Jews went to war, what did they do? They fasted. So Tanis Esther is actually a misnomer. It's to commemorate the fast that the Jewish people on the 13th of Adar went to defend their lives. And the Tanakh time when Jews went to fight, they fasted actually. So to commemorate that, we fast today. So even though it's not Tanis Esther, it's called that. But her fast was actually what? On Pesach. The Pesach, the year before. Very good, Yehuda. The year before. That's right.
Rabbi Sprecher,
Yes.
I have a question.
Fire away.
Okay. All right.
I'm all ears.
During the Yom Kippur War,
Right.
were the people that were fasting, were they told
No.
to stay fasting?
No, don't try this at home. Today, in biblical times, the people were much stronger than we are. Today, when you go to war, you're supposed to eat double. But in the days of Tanakh, where people were physically much stronger and a much higher spiritual level, they fasted. But nowadays, when you go to war, even on Yom Kippur, you're commanded to what? Eat. B'chai b'hem. So this is only, remember I mentioned in Tanakh times, I stressed that, in biblical times, when they went to war, they fasted. But in our time, no, we're not on that madrega, not physically and not spiritually. So today, if you go to war on Yom Kippur, you're obligated to what? To eat. Another reason, good question, another reason why we fast today. To answer this question, we ask another. Why did Hashem raise up Haman? So the Talmud Megillah says, because we attended the drunken party, the wild party of Achashverosh, where he served, what? Vessels of the Beis HaMikdash, where he mocked the Jewish religion and the Jewish God. The Jewish people attended that wild party, where the food was not kosher, and the entertainment certainly was not kosher. And it was a big chil Hashem that they went and they participated in the mocking of the Jewish religion and the Jewish God when he took out the vessels of the Beis HaMikdash and he dressed up in the big day kahuna. That's one reason we dress up on Purim. He masqueraded as the Kohen Gadol. Achashverosh did. And the Jews were there. So Kodesh Baruch Hu raised up Haman. We had no business attending that wild party. So we sinned through what? Eating and drinking. So what's the tikkun? We fast. But there's a higher level. You know, in Yahadut, there are two ways to do tshuva. You abstain from the behavior, or you use that behavior for constructive purposes. So one way to do tshuva for the eating and drinking lo b'seder is to fast. But there's a higher level. You ever wonder why there's a mitzvah to get drunk on Purim? Why should it be a mitzvah to get drunk? The Jewish people sinned with the Mishteh Hayayin, right, Yehuna? They drank non-kosher wine at a non-kosher party. And they got shikar. So what's the tikkun? Now drink l'shem shamayim. There are two ways to do tshuva. You refrain, completely abstain from that activity, or you take that sin and you use it for constructive purposes. So we sin with Mishteh Hayayin by drinking non-kosher wine at a non-kosher party. Now on Purim we drink kosher wine at a kosher Suda. So in Yahadut, the tikkun comes from the chet. This week's Parsha Yosef, right? We build a golden calf, right? So what's the tshuva for the golden calf? The golden Mishkan. God needs golden statues in the Holy of Holies. To kruvim, we're golden statues. So God said, you sinned with a golden statue, now make a golden statue, do it my way. A golden calf, golden lovebirds, what's the difference? The golden calf, God didn't command. That's avodah zarah. The golden kruvim, that's God's tikkun. You sin with gold, golden statue, and I'll take a golden statue and do it my way. So that's the idea. The golden kruvim is a tikkun for the golden egel. The Mishteh Hayayin that we do on Purim is a tikkun for the wild drunken party that we should not have attended. So that's one reason why there's a mitzvah to get drunk on Purim, because the sin came through drinking, so the tikkun has to come through what? Through drinking as well. Now, it's amazing that the Zohar says Yom Kippurim. Yom Kippur is called, in the Torah it's never called Yom Kippur, that's Yiddish. The Torah is called Yom Kippurim, which literally means a day like Purim. So the Zohar points out striking parallels between the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur and Esther approaching the king on Purim. On the one hand, you have the fasting Kohen Gadol, wearing special clothes, fasting, going into the Holy of Holies to risk his life to save the Jewish people. The Kohen Gadol did, right? To beg God for the Jewish people. Fasting, wearing special big day lavan, going into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, a lot of Kohanim just dropped dead there. What's the parallel? A fasting Esther, fasting Kohen Gadol, wearing special clothes, like the Kohen Gadol, going into the inner sanctum of the king, risking her life to plead for the salvation of her people. So amazing, you have Yom Kippurim. Esther seems to be playing the role of what? Of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, which is really bizarre because she's committing what? A terrible sin. She's having relations with a non-Jewish king. And not only that, she was married to Mordechai. The Talmud in Megillah 13 says that she was married to Mordechai because the Megillah says, Lakacha Mordechai. Mordechai took her. Now we know Yehuda and Tanakh, the word lakach, when it comes to a woman, means what? Marriage. Lakacha Mordechai. Mordechai took her. So the Megillah says he took her in marriage. So she was a married woman having relations with a non-Jewish king, and yet the Zohar compares her to what? To Kohen Gadol. It's very bizarre. She committed adultery. She committed adultery because she was married to Mordechai. According to Megillah 13, she was married to Mordechai.
I thought Mordechai was her uncle.
He was her uncle, but he also married. You're allowed to marry an uncle.
Maybe he didn't.
What do you mean? Look at the Gemara Megillah 13a that she was married to Mordechai. That's why it says Lakacha Mordechai. Lakacha. That's a language of getting married. You can marry a niece. So it's very problematic, right? Now how Esther can get away with this, and she's one of the 7 prophetess in Tanakh. The Talmud calls it an Aveira Lishma. And what does that mean? An Aveira Lishma. Don't try this at home. Right? An Aveira for her sake. Who's the her? Yudah, who's the her? Right? Very strange. So let's take a look and see what we can learn from this. This Aveira Lishma. But before we get to that, the rabbis are called sofrim. Ever wonder why the rabbis are called sofrim? What does a sofrim mean? But sofrim means to count, lispor. Right? The rabbis are called sofrim from the word lispor. Because the job of the rabbis is to count the letters in Tanakh.
When they do this sefer, they check it against the other one. Make sure.
That's right. The Sofer, when he writes a Torah, he writes from another Torah. He's counting the letters, comparing them to see if it jives up. Now, in a Sefer Torah, there are 304,805 letters. If you don't believe me, you can count them. In the Megillah, there are 12,110 letters in the Megillah. What's amazing about that? Megillat Esther has 12,110 letters. What's amazing about that, if you look in the Sefer called Toras Chemed, written by Rabbi Weissmandl, Zecher Tzadik Avracha, he is the one that wrote Min HaMeitzar. He jumped from a moving train, on a train out to Auschwitz. He jumped off the train. He survived the war, this Rabbi Weissmandl, and he opened up a yeshiva in Mount Kisco, New York. His name was Rabbi Weissmandl. So he survived the Holocaust by jumping from a train, and he wrote this book called Toras Chemed, where he says something amazing without the computer. He says Megillat Esther has 12,110 letters. So what? Sit down for this one. Now remember, the Torah was written over 9 centuries before the Nes Purim. The Nes Purim happened over 9 centuries after the Torah was already written. So there should be no way that the Torah should have any reference to Esther and Mordechai, right? Says the Rabbi Weissmandl, Toras Chemed, if you count the first pasuk in the Torah, you have the word Bereshis. Take that aleph from the word Bereshis, aleph. Beis Reish aleph. Count 12,110 letters, you're going to get a samach. From that samach, count another 12,110 letters, you're going to get what? A taf. And from that taf, count another 12,110 letters, and you're going to get what? A reish. You heard what I just said? Yes. That the name Esther is spelled out by skipping letters in the Torah, the exact amount of letters that are contained in Megillat Esther. You separate Aleph, Samach, Tov, Reish in the Torah. In those skip letters, you have the word Esther. Yosef, Kawinky Dinky, right? It gets even better. In this week's Parsha, the Torah speaks about the 11 herbs and spices. Remember Colonel Sanders, 11 herbs and spices? This week's Parsha mentions the 11 herbs and spices. One of them is called Mor Doror. Mor Doror. Onkelos says Mordechaya. Say what? Mor Doror, Mordechai in Aramaic. Says the Gemara in Chulin that Mor Doror in Aramaic is Mordechaya. What does Mordechaya sound like to you? What is it? Musical words. So just like Mor was the chief of all spices, from the 11 herbs and spices, which was the dominant smell? Mor. So just like the Mor was the chief of the spices, Mordechai was the chief of the Sanhedrin. Okay? That's what the Gemara in Mechulin tells us. Onkelos translates Mor Doror Mordechai. Says Rabbi Weissmandl, fasten your seatbelt. No, I say fasten your seatbelts. He says as follows. If you take the mem in this week's parsha from the word more, and you count 12,110 letters from that mem, you're going to get a resh. And from that resh, count another 12,110 letters. You're going to get what? A dalet. Are you listening to this? And from that dalet, count another 12,110 letters. You're going to get a kaf. And from that kaf, you count another 12,110 letters. You're going to get what? A yud. That means the name Mordechai and Esther are spelled out in the Torah by skipping the exact amount of letters that are in the Megillah, and if you space those letters out, you'll have the name Mordechai and Esther encoded in the Megillah.
In the Torah.
In the Torah, thank you. At least somebody's awake.
Just want to go back.
Now, isn't that amazing, Rabbi Eberson? You knew this? You knew this, not?
Was it ever checked by computer?
Torah's Chemed, he did this. He had no computer when he did this.
Has it ever been rechecked by
Well, I take his word for it.
It's a lot easier now.
Imagine counting the letters and having the name Mordechai and Esther spelled out in the Torah 9 centuries before the Purim story in the exact amount of letters that are contained in the Megillah, and those amount of letters spell out the name Mordechai and Esther when you separate them. Dr. Hackett, could that be a coinky-dinky? Okay, it's just amazing how folkba, the kulaba. The Mishnah says it, Ovot, keep turning it over and keep turning it over, because everything you want to know about anything is found where? In the Torah. Just count the letters, and just amazing.
Something bothers me.
Right?
Getting back to Esther.
Right.
Adultery. Wouldn't Mordechai give her a get?
Why didn't Mordechai give her a get? So the Gemara in Megillah 15 asked your question. Why didn't Mordechai give her a get, thereby saving her from adultery? That's what Tosfos asked in Megillah 15. Tosfos gives a strange answer. He says when you give a person a get, you have to be mefarseim. How do you say that in English? You got to thank you. You got to publicize that Mrs. Goldberg is divorced, and now the shotguns can call her up. Yep. When you give a get, you have to publicize the fact that this woman is no longer married. So Mordechai was afraid that if he divorces Esther and he has to publicize it, the king would kill him for being there married to his queen. So therefore, to save his own life, he didn't give her a get, and he let her commit adultery, which is very problematic, which we're going to get to. I'm leaving that for the punchline. Okay, we're going to get to it, okay? But this what Tosfos gives a strange answer, that in order to protect his own life, Mordechai did not give his wife a get, because you give a get, you have to publicize it, otherwise the get is not valid. If you don't publicize, the get is not valid, and therefore the king would find out that he was married to his queen, and this would cause the king was very jealous, and it would cause him to what? Strike out and kill Mordechai. So that's why he did not divorce her. Okay? But let's take a look at our sheet on side number 1. Everybody has a sheet. How Esther could do this. First of all, it's intermarriage, and not only that, she was married to Mordechai. It's not just intermarriage, she's committing adultery. The whole thing seems very, very strange to us. Now, how could she get away with this? Now, we know the Gemara in Saita says you have the word ish for husband. In the middle of the word ish, you have a yud, right? Isha, wife, has a hey. So ish v'isha, yud and a hey, shchina b'neihem. God is present in every Jewish marriage. Ish, isha. The thing is, the yud, ish, of God's name, that's inside the word ish. So therefore men have tunnel vision. Because the godly power of the Yud and the man, Aleph Yud Shin Yehuda, that's contained inside the word Ish, husband. Isha, her godly power, where is that, Zisel? At the end. She's not boxed in. Women can think outside of the box and do things that seem very strange. Look what happened with Yehuda. Was seduced by Tamar. Tamar seduced Yehuda, right? And who was born? Peretz, the grandfather of what? Yael seduced Sisera. Sisera was the Arafat of his day. And she conceived from that encounter. And the Zohar says that child that was conceived happened to be the great-great-grandfather of the greatest sage who ever lived, Rabbi Akiva. You hear this? The daughter of Lot seduced him, and who was born? Moab, also the grandfather of Ruth, who Mashiach comes from. So women have this power, their godly power, and the hay, that's not boxed in like the yud of the ish. So women can think outside the box and do things that seem strange and bizarre, what we would call an avera lishma, an avera for her sake. And we'll talk about that a little more, and why it had to be this way. But first of all, why did we wear a mask on Purim? The English word person comes from the Hebrew, not from the Hebrew, from the Latin persona. Dr. Hackett told me that last week, that the English word person comes from the Latin persona. And the Latin word persona means mask. That means my person is a mask. And the word persona in Latin, which means mask, comes from the Hebrew partsuf, which means face. But my face is just a mask for who I really am. Who am I, Yosef? I'm a soul man. My persona, my person is a mask. My face is only a mask for who I am. Rachmiel, I'm not my body. My body is a masquerade for my godly soul, for my tzelem Elohim, for my chelik Elohim imal. We're all wearing masks in this world. What you see is not what you get. Don't confuse me with my bodysuit, my mask, and I'll prove it to you. You look in the Webster dictionary for the word skin, they give a synonym, hide. I'll tan your hide. Evelyn, everybody remember that? I'll tan your hide. You can Google it too. A synonym for the word skin is the word hide. What the heck does skin got to do with hide? But I gave you the answers, Esau. The skin hides who I am. I've got you under my skin. Why in the world would the English synonym for skin be hide? We just said why. The skin hides who I am. I am a godly soul. But it's hidden by my body. Get it? Skin hides who I am. And therefore in Hebrew the word partsuf is Aramaic, which means mask or face. Hebrew for face is panim. Why is it in the plural? Faces? How many faces you got? You with it? One. So why in Hebrew is a word for face panim, which is what? Plural. The word panim for face is the same root as the word pnim. What does pnim mean? Inside. The face in plural, that's not really me. It hides who I am inside.
The eyes are the window of the soul.
Beautiful. The Ari HaKodesh says the eyes are the windows to the soul. My face is just a mask for my godly soul. Look how it all comes together. Purim reminds us they're all wearing a mask, and so is he. What's God's mask called? Hateva, which means in Hebrew what? Nature. And the word Hateva is Gematria Elohim. Kwinky dinky. The word Hateva, nature, is the same numerical value as what? As Elohim, 80 God. God wears a mask, which is nature. And we wear a mask, which is our body. But the Zohar HaKadosh says that when we die, we remove our mask, and he removes his mask. Therefore, this is called Olam HaSheker. It's a world of masks. My mask, my body, and God is wearing a mask, nature. But the Zohar says when a person dies, he removes his mask and God removes his mask. In this week's Parsha, God tells Moses, Kilo Yerani Adam V'chai, which means as long as a person lives in this world, he can't see me. The Zohar says, implying when he's no longer living in this world, he can't see me. Kilo Yerani Adam V'chai, right, Dr. Active? While you're living in this world, you can't see me, says the Zohar. But when you're not living in this world, when you take off your mask, God says, I will remove my mask. That's why the next world is called Olam Emet, where the masks come off, mine and his. This is the Olam HaSheker. God says, you got to play the game with me. Playing peekaboo, hide and seek. It's a game. Reality is Olam Emet. But now let's get to Esther, the sin of what? Esther's dilemma, salvation through sin. Now you see this throughout Judaism. It's just amazing that Rav Shlomo Goren Zatzal used Esther to justify Mossad agents marrying Gentile women to protect their cover when the enemy territory. Eli Cohen, remember him?
Yeah.
He had to marry, he was so close to the president of Syria. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have won the 6-Day War. So it's amazing that these enemy agents were justified to marry Goyish women, says Rav Gorin, to protect their cover based on what Esther did. Esther was an enemy agent. A mole, M-O-L-E. She did what she had to do to save the Jewish people. So he says that Mossad agents or the Shin Bet agents can use Esther to marry Gentile women to protect their cover when they are in enemy countries for national security. Isn't that amazing? That he would actually say this, Rav Gorin, based on the story of Esther. But if you take a look at your sheet on side number 1, that a person, despite his sin or because of a sin, can become much greater. If you take a look at side number 1, source number 4, Rashi, Krav el HaMizbeach. Moshe tells his brother Aaron, approach the Mizbeach and become the Kohen Gadol. So Rashi says, see source number 4, Yehuda? Rashi says, Krav el HaMizbeach, hoya Aaron bosh v'yurei legeshet. Aaron was ashamed because of the Chet HaEgel. He was ashamed. He felt that he's not worthy to be the big kahuna. Omer lo Moshe, lamata bosh. Why are you ashamed? Lekach nevcharta. You were chosen. You were chosen for this. What do you mean you were chosen for this? What does Rashi mean? Aaron became the Kohen Gadol despite him building the golden calf, or because of it? Say what? Look at source number 5 from the Sfat Emet. See that? Source number 5. L'chein asher krav al mizbeach. Therefore the Torah says to Aaron, approach the Mizbeach. Lamata bosh. Why are you ashamed? L'kach necharta. You were chosen. Source number 5. Perush. Sasemis. Ki b'nei Yisrael hoya ata b'chinat bal tshuva. After the Chet HaEgel, the Jews all had the status of what? Of Baal Tshuva. V'hoya yochal lios Kohen Gadol shalahem. And therefore their big kahuna could only be Rak Mishoy B'Klal HaChet. Aaron's sin was not a liability, but bizarre as it sounds, Yisrael was what? An asset. Say what? Sfas Emes is saying this. You see that? Moshe Rabbeinu olav hashalom nasa lo yisnatzlut lo Hashem ga'at haya muchach lios nechlal bechet. Ze bavish yochel lios kohen gadol shalahem. Moshe couldn't be the kohen gadol. He was too perfect. Perfect people cannot be my role model. I can only identify with what? With a person that sinned and did tshuva. Otherwise, you have nothing to give me. U'mitzad zeh nechshal bechet. Yiddish. V'lo yot me'etzem nafshe ki hoya tzadik gomor. Moshe was a tzadik gomor. V'lechein ksiv ahi she'al yedei zeh nifcha Aaron. V'lo Moshe Rabbeinu. So therefore, who had to be the big kahuna Yehuda? A repentant sinner. Aaron, the one who built the golden calf, and not Moshe Rabbeinu. Shoy bechinas Baal Tshuva, because Aaron is the Baal Tshuva. Moshe Rabbeinu is the Tzaddik Gomor.
What is a Tzaddik Gomor?
A perfectly righteous person. A goody two-shoes.
Finished.
You say, Moshe Yidei Shirov, right? So Moshe Rabbeinu could not be the Kohen Gadol. He was too perfect. It's Dafke Aaron HaKohen who sinned by building a golden calf. Now he's doing tshuva. Therefore, Aaron is the big kahuna. And the Talmud tells us, and the Rambam rules la halacha, that a Baal tshuva stands much higher than what? A tzaddik gomer. A person that sinned and did tshuva is more precious to God than the biggest Rebbe in Meir Shorim. A former disco boy or a former gigolo, if he does tshuva, is more precious to God than the biggest Rebbe in Bnei Brak. Say what? There's a pasuk in Mishlei, Shev al yipol tzadik v'kam. A tzaddik will fall 7 times and he gets up. Says the Baal Shem Tov. He puts a little kvetch on it. A person is only a tzaddik after he falls 7 times and gets up. Only then is he called a tzaddik. Only when a person has failed 7 times and doesn't give up and tries to do better, only then is he called a tzaddik. Wow. Now, Soloveitchik says this idea is actually contained in the Torah. You know, we got two sets of 10 commandments, right? The first time before the Chet HaEgel in Parshas Yisro, and the second time after the Chet HaEgel, Parshas Vatchanan. The words Laman Yitav Loch, it should be good for you, is only contained in the second 10 commandments. Soloveitchik wonders, why are those 3 words, Laman Yitav Loch, it should be good for you, not contained in the first 10 commandments before the sin of the Egel? Only after the Jews sinned with the Egel and did tshuva, and God gave us a second set, there you have the words Laman Yitav Loch. Says Soloveitchik, why? Because when a person sins and does tshuva, it's good for him. The first set of the tablets, we didn't sin yet. We were a tzaddik gomer. But a person that sins and does tshuva, Laman Yitav Loch. So therefore, those words are only contained in the second 10 commandments, after the sin of the Egel and after the tshuva, not in the first. Your point, Roger, that a Baal tshuva is more precious to God than what? Than a perfectly righteous person. Soloveitchik says that the golden calf became a golden opportunity for tshuva. And it's, why is that, says Rav Soloveitchik, that the sin becomes tov, Laman Yitav Loch. The sin itself becomes good. How could the sin become good? Gemara in Yuma 86 says, a person does tshuva me'ahava, zdonot na'aseh lo k'zchuyot. A person does tshuva because he loves God, then that sin becomes what? A mitzvah. Say what? Becomes good for him. So therefore the words good for you are in the second 10 commandments. We sin with the Egel, we did tshuva me'ahava. So by doing tshuva because we love God, we turn that sin into what? A mitzvah. The awesome power of a Jew to reinvent himself, to rejuvenate himself. You say the past is dead and buried, right? A Jew can go back to the past. That cheeseburger I ate 9 years ago, I can turn that into a mitzvah. The discotheque I attended 9 years ago, I could turn it into a mitzvah. It's mind-boggling. By doing tshuva me'ahava, you're taking the aveira and you're making a mitzvah out of it. Yuma, page 86. Therefore, says the Rav, Laman yitavloch, is only after the sin of the golden calf. You're turning that sin into good by doing tshuva me'ahava.
Too bad I didn't eat more cheese.
What?
Too bad I didn't eat more cheese.
No, it's a famous story. Levi Yitzchak Braditchev. Remember, he told Erev Yom Kippur. Levi Yitzchak Braditchev told the town bum, a drunk, a ganef. He said, "I envy you." He says, "Rebbe, you envy me? I'm the biggest ganef, and you're the biggest tzaddik. Why do you envy me?" He says, "I envy you because if you do tshuva me'ahava, then all of your averis that you did will become what? Mitzvahs." So the bum said, "Listen, Rabbi, give me another year till I have more averis to convert. Don't rush me." Right, Moshe, don't rush me. Okay. In this week's parasha, we're going to read this afternoon. We read it in the morning. God, after the sin of the golden calf, and God gives him the second tablets, God says, "I'm going to do es and the float. I'm going to do something more marvelous with you that was never done before." The Ramban wonders, es and the floor, it means in the future. I'm going to do something. You think splitting of the Red Sea was something? You think Dan Quayle and the Mun was something? You think the 10 plagues were something? You ain't seen nothing yet. The Ramban wonders, what's more marvelous than giving of the Torah? Than splitting the Red Sea, not the Dead Sea. Then the plagues, the magic bread from heaven, the rock from the well. And God says, "Es and the float, I'm going to do something much more marvelous. You ain't seen nothing yet." What's more marvelous? Says the Ramban, when Moshe came down the mountain, he had the Shekhinah on his face. That's more marvelous than all the other miracles. Splitting of the Red Sea took place what? Splitting of the Red Sea took place what? One night. God spoke the 10 Commandments. How long did it take him? 45 minutes. God spoke to us face to face when he gave us the 10 Commandments. How long could it take him already? An hour and a half. But here, every time the Jews looked at Moshe Rabbeinu, and every time Moshe Rabbeinu opened up his mouth, who did they hear and who did they see? The Shekhinah. Moshe like a ventriloquist. Shechina medaberet mitargroina shel Moshe. Shechina medaberet mitargroina shel Moshe. When Moshe was teaching them Torah, whose voice did they hear? Not for 45 minutes, not for one night like the Red Sea, but for 40 years. They saw the Shechina on Moshe's face and heard God's voice speaking through him. Says Rav Soloveitchik, when did that happen? Before the Chet HaEgel or after? After. The first time Moses came down the mountain, when he comes, did he have the Shekhinah on his face? Did he hear God's voice in his mouth? No. It's only after the Chet HaEgel, after the sin, and the Jews did tshuva. Now Moshe comes down with the second set. Now they see the Shekhinah on his face and hear God's voice. So Rav Soloveitchik says, you see, Laman yitavloch, that a person sins and does tshuva me'ahava, he becomes much better. Because if the Jews would not have sinned with the golden calf, they would have only gotten the first tablets. Would they see the Shekhinah for 40 years? Why? I'm a goody two-shoes. It's only after they sinned, Maddie, and they did tshuva. Now they see the Shekhinah for 40 years. Every time they saw Moshe's face, they saw the Shekhinah. And he opened up his mouth, they heard the voice. That happened only after the sin of the Egel, at the second set of tablets, not the first. Isn't that amazing? Now let's go to side number 2. Rav Tzaddik speaks about an Aveira Lishma. That a person sins, he becomes much better or can become much better. Slide number 2, you see what it says, Esther? Rav Tzadik HaKol Milublin. You see that? Hani Avera Lishma. An Avera for her sake. He's speaking about Esther. Shahashlama Shelishma Bo Achar Avera. The Chol Avera Lishma. You do an Avera for God's sake. Hainu Al Korchoi. Shedei Maisezu Yinolad Achakach Dover Tov. You do a sin, but afterwards something good can come from it. What's the good? The tshuva. Or in this case, she had a child with Achashverosh. She had a child with him. Darius II. Who built the second temple? Who allowed Ezra and Nehemiah to build the second temple? Who supported it financially and morally? It was the son of Esther that she had with Achashverosh. He's the one that allowed Ezra and Nehemiah to build the second temple.
So that was all for Mamzer? 1
minute. He wasn't a mamzer, because a mamzer is only if the lover is a Jew. If the lover is a goy, right, Rabbi Emerson, even though it's adultery, the child is not a mamzer. A mamzer is only if the lover of the wife is a Jew. It's still adultery, but it's not a mamzer. So Darius was a full-fledged Jew. Why was he a full-fledged Jew? Because his mother Esther was Jewish. Now you look in the book of Nehemiah and Ezra, he didn't live like a Jew. He lived like a Persian. But this is what he gave his ma. He gave his mother the second Beis Hamikdash. You know, Esther is a tragic heroine. If little girls would know who Esther was, no little girl would want to dress up as Esther. What a tragic life she led. What a tragic life she led. Married to Mordechai, being taken to the harem and becoming queen, having relations with a non-Jew, being married to a Jew, and then even when her husband died, Achashverosh died, she couldn't go back to Mordechai. Because a married woman having relations with another man voluntarily can't go back to the husband, never. So she's trapped. She has one child, and that child who's Jewish doesn't live like a Jew. So she is really the tragic heroine, she is. And the Talmud Megillah 13 says that she also ate pork. She ate pork, incredible. She had ham and eggs, or what is it called, steak and eggs for breakfast. That she was forced to go all the way to intermarry Avera Lishma and even to eat non-kosher food. But in the end, she did tshuva for that. And in the end, it turned out great for the Jewish people, because the child that she had with Achashverosh, he is the one that authorized and supported the building of the second temple. So what do you see from here? You see from here that what? That things don't always go smoothly. A person, in order to succeed, has to first what? Fail. How many times, Maddie? Sheva Yipol Tzadik. And the Baal Shem Tov says, if you don't fail 7 times and get up, you're not called a tzaddik.
But you're not supposed to do that purposely.
You're right. You're not supposed to do it purposely. But everybody sins. Everybody sins. But the good thing is that there can be a toyelet. You can use that sin to become much greater than you were before. And don't be too disappointed in yourself. Even though you fail, you can pull yourself up and what? Do better. Many successful people have said if they wouldn't have failed, they never would have been who they are. And if that's true in the physical world, it's certainly true what? In the spiritual world. Now if you look at source number 6, you see something amazing. Source number 6 says, Kodesh Baruch Hu commanded, by the 6 days of creation, he commanded that the fruit tree should taste like the fruit. You hear? The fruit, for source number 6, God commanded that the bark of the tree should taste like the fruit. But did the earth listen? No. Look at source number 7. Rashi, source number 7. You see that? Eitz pri, shehit tama, eitz ketama pri. God wanted that the apple tree, the bark should taste like the apple. And the orange tree, the bark should taste like the orange. And the pear tree, the bark should taste like what? Pear. Should I go on? You get the idea. V'hi lo yastakain. See source number 7? She, Mother Earth, didn't do that. V'taytza oretz eitz ose pri. The earth brought forth the fruit. V'lo eitz pri. But the tree did not taste like the fruit. And yet, go back to source number 6, Pasuk Yud Bet. Despite rebelling against God and not following God's orders, what did it say in source number 6, Yud Bet Yehuda? The last 3 words. I think it's underlined. Source number 6, Pasuk Yud Bet. Vayar Elohim ki tov. God saw it's good. Why is it good? The earth rebelled, whatever that means. It didn't follow instructions. Why does God say it's good? So my Rebbe Rapam said, to teach that plan B is also good. You fail, things don't work out the way you wanted, it's also good. Vayar Elohim ki tov. Wow. Everything is all for the best, even failure. Now this idea is so unbelievable, source number 8, that it's okay to fail and to make mistakes, learn from them and become better, despite your sin or because of it. Look at source number 8. Fasten your seatbelts. Amar Kodesh Baruch Hu. I told you this morning, Even Ezra. May I have the seat in front of you now? See? Number 8. Amar Kodesh Baruch Hu, kapara alai. God says, bring me a kapara that I diminish the moon. What? On Rosh Chodesh you say what? Chatos Lashem. God says, bring a kapara on me that I diminish the moon. Hashem needs a sin offering? We have Yom Kippur once a year, but every Rosh Chodesh is what? God's Yom Kippur. What does that mean? God diminished the moon. Blue moon. If God diminished the moon, why does he asking me for a kapara? Says Ralph Soloveitchik, this is a metaphor. Who is the moon, Bainish? The Jewish people. We are the moon. Covered in darkness, dark forces of evil. It looks like we're about to be swallowed up in the blackness. Right? The Holocaust, swallowed up, all black. But we are the great comeback kid. Rabbi Yosef, we keep rejuvenating. We have the power of Chodesh, of Chidush. We renew ourselves. So Kodesh Baruch Hu says, according to Rav Soloveitchik, this is a metaphor that God says, bring a kapara that I diminish you. The Jewish people, that's why we follow a lunar calendar. Right? We are the moon. Surrounded by forces of blackness and darkness. And then Hitler looked like he's going to swallow us up, and Haman and Abu Mamzer and all the enemies. But we persevere. We have the power to rejuvenate, to renew ourselves. But for putting us through that, Kodesh Baruch Hu Kaviyachol says, bring a kapara for me that I have to put you through this. So Kodesh Baruch Hu is saying, don't be too hard on yourself. Everybody makes mistakes. Sheval yipol tzadik v'kam. Sheval yipol tzadik v'kam. I'm going to quote the Noam Elimelech over here, so don't attack me. Happens to be one of my great-great-grandparents, the Noam Elimelech. Says, Sheval yipol tzadik v'kam. The Zohar tells us that God created 7 worlds before He created this one. There was a failure, and He started over. So the Noam Elimelech says, Sheval yipol tzadik v'kam. Who's the tzaddik in that verse? 7 times it didn't work out for God. 7 worlds He created and He destroyed them. It was a failure. God didn't give up. V'kam. It's a message for us. It's okay to fail.
Wait a minute.
Sheval yipol tzadik v'kam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kavayachol writes about himself to give me the lesson. Don't be so hard on yourself. If you fall, you fail, you can do better. Kavayachol, God says, look at me. When I created the 7 worlds and it didn't work out and I failed, did I give up? When I created the world and I had to start all over again with Noach, did I give up? It was a washout. With Noach, the Mabul, a washout. Did God give up? If at first you don't succeed, try again. So God loves man so much, he's willing to write about himself. Sheva yipol tzadik v'kam. To write about himself, those words, incredible, to demonstrate how much he loves us, that don't be too hard on yourself. The great Esther was a prophet. She had to do this. She had to do this for the benefit of the Jewish people. And a sin can have positive benefits if you use it to reconstruct yourself, to reinvent yourself, to become better. David HaMelech wrote the most beautiful psalms in Tehillim. When? Before the sin of Bathsheba? Or after? Only after. If David would not have sinned with Bathsheba, he never would have written the most beautiful psalms. The classic Psalm of Tshuva, Psalm 51, was written only after the sin of Bathsheba. Not a license to sin, but everybody sins. But you can use that sin to become much better than you were before. Shivisi, what does King David say? V'chatosi negdi tamid. King David says, Psalm 51, you can check me. V'chatosi negdi tamid. David says, because of my sin with Bathsheba, I'm much better than I was before the sin. Before the sin, I was coasting. Cruise control. But once a person sins, he has so much to make up for. He can't take a day off. That sin drives him and propels him to spiritual heights he never would have reached if it wasn't for what? For the sin. The guilty conscience is what makes him scale spiritual heights he never would have reached without the guilty conscience. That's what King David is teaching me, and that's what Esther Hamalka is teaching me over here. That what? The virtue of imperfection. Go back to side number 1. I called it the virtue of imperfection. Pretty interesting, huh? Any questions and comments?
So what's the actual simcha? Esther has a hard life. What was the actual simcha that we're celebrating?
We're celebrating our failures. You heard what Yehuda Lev just said? We're celebrating not just our successes, but our failures. You hear, Zisel, what the man answered you? We're celebrating our failures. Whatever happens in life, it's all HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's a plan. There's a plan. Even the failures is part of his plan for us. That should give me simcha. Now, so we still have a couple of minutes. There's a mitzvah to get shikra on Purim, but if you look in the Rambam and the Ramah, he says after you drink, you should go to sleep. They keep stressing that you have to go to sleep. The purpose of the drinking is to make you to go to sleep. Why is that? It says Rav Soloveitchik, you sitting now? In fact, Moshe Feinstein would just go to sleep, Evelyn. He would cut to the chase. Rav Soloveitchik explains, you listening? You ever see how a baby sleeps? Sleep like a baby? So peacefully. You know, last night I slept like a baby, Evelyn. I woke up crying every hour. Danish, a baby sleeps so peacefully because he knows that his parent is what? Watching over him and taking care of him. Rav Soloveitchik said that's the purpose of the drinking, to make you go to sleep. The Rambam and the Ramah express the purpose of drinking, you go to sleep. Sleep peacefully like a baby. On Purim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is our parent. He's taking good care of us. Even though he's behind the mask, he's taking good care of me. I can sleep like a baby, not crying every hour. So Rav Moshe Feinstein would go to sleep.
Without the drinking?
Without the drinking. His Talmidim testify. Because he wants to sleep like a baby, like a Kodesh Baruch Hu is our parent, and we can sleep peacefully. We have a minyan to say Kaddish Rabbanan.
Yes, and also class on Sunday.
There's a class not tomorrow, there's a class on Sunday. The class on Sunday, 2 o'clock, is whether exposing a child sex abuser and naming him, is that Lashon Hara? You know a guy's a sex abuser. Can you expose him? Is that Lashon Hara or not? That's the talk on Sunday.